Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help ambitious private practitioners across the globe to brand themselves and grow their dream practices. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building ninja tips. Visit privatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and our signature marketing e-course. Here are your co-hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. As always, we are delighted you're here and really appreciate your listenership and allowing us to bring you topics related all to building and growing your private practice, sometimes strategy and sometimes mindset stuff, because that is a definite. Today, we're going to be talking about social media. We're welcoming Andrea Jones, social media strategist, and we are talking about how to automate your social media while still maintaining a personal touch. So that is a topic that you guys wanted to hear. And we hope that you joined us last week as we had a very important episode. If you're kind of just done with that hustle and grind mentality, and if you're wondering, how can I duplicate myself? How can I diversify? You definitely want to check out our podcast with Yuri Elkam as we talked about the death of hustle and grind mentality. If you're brand new to us, thanks so much for jumping on board and listening to this podcast. We hope you stay for a long time. We have a gift for you that is your Dream Private Practice Playbook, and that is a free gift. This is the exact methodology that Kate and I use to build our six-figure full-fee private practices, and more importantly, have taught many therapists to do the same. So head on over to privatepracticestartup.com and slide on over to the resources tab, and there you will see it. Let me share with you guys a little bit about Andrea. Andrea Jones has built an online business committed to empowering businesses to utilize the power of social media in a positive and impactful way without being overwhelmed and drained by it. She's worked over 7 years in the game. Andrea hosts the acclaimed podcast, Savvy Social Podcast, leads a team providing done-for-you service inside of her marketing agency that was named a top digital marketing agency in 2021 and serves over 100 students in her membership site, Savvy Social School. I had to slow down to say that because I would have probably slipped up and said something else. You could definitely find her on Instagram, online at onlinedrea.com or at onlinedrea on Instagram. So before we dive into today's topic, let's just take a quick moment for our sponsor. GreenPoint Med is a leading provider of medical billing and credentialing services to the community of mental health providers and practices. Running a healthcare practice can be hard, and working with insurance can make it even harder. Cut through the complexity of insurance by working with GreenPoint Med on any billing or credentialing need. GreenPoint Med offers customized solutions to providers and practices to help make running the insurance side of your practice simple and efficient. Any state, any insurer, any issue, GreenPoint Med can help. Bonus alert, if you're a Therapy Notes user, GreenPoint Med's billing services are directly integrated with the platform. All billing work is done directly in Therapy Notes. If billing for your practice is taking up too much time or causing way too many headaches, call GreenPoint Med today for a free consultation. Just reference code StartupNation. Go to greenpointmed.com and schedule your free consultation right there on the homepage. Again, that's greenpointmed.com.
Is managing your practice stressing you out? Try Therapy Notes. It makes billing, notes, scheduling, and telehealth a whole lot easier. Check it out, and you will quickly see why it's rated the highest EHR on Trustpilot with over 1,000 verified customer reviews and an average customer rating of 4.9 or 5 stars. You'll notice the difference from the first day you sign up for the trial. They offer live phone support 7 days a week. So when you have questions, you can quickly reach someone who can help. You are never wasting time looking for answers. If you're coming from another EHR, they make the transition really easy. Therapy Notes will import your client's demographic data free of charge during your trial so you can get going right away. Use the promo code PPS to get your first 2 months for free, or try out Therapy Notes for free, no strings attached, including their very reliable telehealth platform. Make 2021 the best year yet with Therapy Notes.
Andrea, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We are excited to have you, and share with our guests a little bit. I know I had asked you before we hit record, who is it that you serve overall in this space?
Yeah, I work with a lot of folks in the wellness space, life coaches, therapists, e-commerce wellness brands, basically any online business owner that helps other people. That's kind of my jam.
I love it. I love it. And, I love this topic because especially for folks coming into private practice or even folks in private practice, it just feels so overwhelming and being told about all the have-tos we have to do. So I love the idea of really automating social media, but like maintaining that personal touch. So where should we dive into this topic? And you know what, before we dive in, we always like to start like, how did you come into marketing and social media? What's your story around that?
Yeah. And, I actually am one of those weirdos who likes social media. I'm fairly introverted, and I like that I can choose to kind of be social and spend time online connecting with people, but then I can choose not to whenever I don't want to. And I think that's part of my approach as well to social media, and my strategy is all about creating a space that works for you and not necessarily being dragged by all of the different opportunities and options and forever scrolling that can sometimes come with social media.
For sure. For sure. And had you always been in the marketing realm, or did your kind of career begin somewhere else?
Yeah, I started my career in hospitality. I worked for Marriott Hotels. I was the youngest person on the team. This was 2012 to 2013. So social media was just kind of picking up steam there. And being the youngest person on the team, I was put in charge of the Facebook page and the Twitter account. And so I did get some experience in that aspect. But I actually met my husband on YouTube. I lived in Atlanta, Georgia. He lived in Toronto, Canada.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's part of my story is that I used it to, not unintentionally, but I did find my life partner that way. But with kind of us like building our lives together, I quit my job, and that's when I started freelancing online and really found a space in social media for something that came a little bit more naturally to me than it did to other folks out there.
Very cool. And that's funny. So you got promoted to manage the Facebook page just because you were the youngest person?
Yeah. And it wasn't really a promotion. It was just, you're doing this now.
Yeah.
In addition.
They're like, let's see, who's the youngest? Okay. So the youngest people must be good at social media. So it's you.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of like I was a manager, and my kind of section was the spa and fitness center in the hotel. And there was a few other managers where we were kind of tag teaming it, and they were just kind of like, this is also part of your job now.
Interesting. And then this kind of like sprungboard you into where you are today. And how did you become interested in serving wellness folks?
Yes, because of my history working in the spa industry, it was a natural fit for me to start in that space as well. And then it kind of expanded into all sorts of people in the wellness industry and in the wellness space. I particularly love working with life coaches. Typically, they have so much amazing content, and they'd rather put their energy into, writing a blog post or filming a video or recording a podcast, but they don't necessarily want to be on social media all the time. So I found kind of like a little space for myself working, especially in the done for you side, with those folks who want to spend their energy creating the longer form content and need someone to come in and amplify and kind of help it see the attention that it deserves.
Interesting. Very cool. So related to your topic, where should we dive in? Like, how do you automate your social media stuff while maintaining that personal touch?
Yeah. One of my first tips is all about automating ourselves and our time. And so when we think about social media, sometimes we log on to Instagram, for instance, and suddenly it's an hour later and nothing actually happened. And so one of my very first things that I encourage people to do is to, number one, understand your relationship with social media, but both personally and as a business owner, right? Those should be two separate things and two separate tasks. And once you understand that, give yourself some boundaries. So oftentimes I'm recommending to automate your time, block off a time in your calendar or I use Asana for task management. So I have a little task. It's like check Instagram, write Instagram posts. Really be that specific with yourself, because social media is designed to be addictive. It's designed to keep you on the apps. And as business owners, we have 10 million other things we need to be doing. This is just part of it. So automate yourself so that you create that space to be intentional on social media and you're not kind of being dragged by everything that could be happening on these apps. So within that time, I recommend 1 hour a week for a lot of business owners. I do this on Fridays. I work on the next week's content. And then about 10 to 15 minutes a day, managing your comments and messages and kind of networking and engaging with your community.
Interesting. So how do you, in the 10 to 15 minutes a day, like how do you just make it 10 to 15 minutes?
You may have to set a timer. Honestly, I use Toggl, and that's how I know that this works. I track my time for everything I do in my business. And this is something that we do not just for ourselves, but my team does it for our clients as well. And you can set your own time limit. It doesn't have to be 10 or 15 minutes. However, I find that that's the most sustainable time frame for a lot of business owners. Honestly, as business owners, we are people who like to be challenged. We like to be good at what we do. And so when I suggest this, sometimes I get business owners who are like, you know what? I'm just going to go on a Saturday, knock it all out. You know, like we want to like do it all at the same time. And then I won't look at it for another month or so, but you really can't run social media that way, specifically things like comments and messages. It's kind of a daily thing that needs support and attention. And so 10 to 15 minutes typically works for a lot of business owners. And then any leftover time, spend that time networking. If you're a local practice or a local business owner, look through some of the hashtags that people are posting in your area. If you serve people all over the country, then maybe look at some of the other folks in your field, see who's hosting conversations. How can you join into those conversations and just be an active member of the community?
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So tell us a little bit more about the idea of automating this. Like, how do you automate this aspect?
Yes. So one of my favorite ways to automate is to schedule your post to go live so that you don't have to actually go in and post. This is the biggest one that business owners get caught up with, especially if you open up Facebook and you're staring at that cursor thinking, what am I supposed to say today? That's actually where we can waste a lot of time. So work in batches, either a week or a month at a time, and schedule your posts to go out at an optimized time. Now, there are a lot of tools that help with this. I like Fan Booster. You can also look at Agora Pulse, or if you want a simpler tool, and Instagram's your primary platform, Planoly is also a great one. They all give you the option to post for you. So they post on your behalf automatically. You don't have to log into any apps. It's not like you get a notification. And then this way, posts go out at an optimized time. And most of them also suggest a time for you. They look at your kind of post history. They look at your engagement history, and based on their algorithm, they suggest days and times that will work best for when your audience is most active. So this not only helps you in the sense that you don't have to log in and post, but also helps you in the sense that at the exact moment when most of your audience is most likely to engage with your posts, you have something going out automatically.
Interesting. Very interesting. Let's just take another moment for our sponsor.
Okay, everybody, it's sponsor time. Look, this past year was super stressful, but if you own a private practice, this could also be the year that you switch to a better payroll. Gusto wasn't just built for small businesses. It was built for the people behind them. Their online payroll is so easy to use. Gusto can automatically calculate paychecks and file all of your payroll taxes, which means you have more time to actually run your business. Plus, Gusto does way more than just payroll. Gusto helps with time tracking, health insurance, 401ks, onboarding, benefits, offer letters, access to HR experts. You get the idea. It's super easy to set up and get started. And if you're moving from another provider, they can transfer all of the data for you. It's no surprise that 94% of customers are likely to recommend Gusto. Here's the best part. Because you're a listener, you get 3 months totally free. All you have to do is go to gusto.com/PPS, as in the private practice startup. That's gusto.com/PPS.
So I was trying to write down a list of some of the things that you use. And so so you said Fan Boost, or you said something Pulse. What is that?
Agora Pulse.
Agora.
Yes.
Like agoraphobia is that's what comes to my mind.
Oh my gosh. I'm just now thinking maybe I'm saying it wrong. It's one of those things where, you see the word a million times and then you think, do I ever say this out loud?
Well, spell it for us so I can make sure I have it.
What we'll do is we'll put the list of them on the show notes so that people can see that. So maybe you can just share the correct spelling and the links for the resources so that we can have them correctly on the show notes. And I had a question for you. I was curious about how Startup Nation can figure out the best timing to schedule their post for their audience, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram. How would they go about doing that research themselves so that they know that they're really targeting correctly?
Yes, both Facebook and Instagram has this data in the insights section of your account. So you must have a business account. So either in Facebook, you have to be in Facebook's Business Creator Studio, or on Instagram, you have to have a business account. And both of these accounts, you go into your insights. Typically, it's under the audience section, and it'll break this down for you by day. And you can see each day the spikes in the time. Now, it doesn't automatically tell you the best time. Use your best judgment. So for example, it'll show you Sunday, and you'll see Sunday at 3:00 has a spike in activity. So you can assume around that time on each Sunday, you can post and there'll be a spike of activity around your posts as well. So it's very interesting information. I love geeking out about the insights, but just start scrolling through and look and see when your audience is the most active.
Mm-hmm.
And so also, does it kind of give you insights in regards to, well, here, let me back up the question. So I know a lot of therapists think if they're having to do it themselves, it's well, what should I post, right? And so, there might be a spike, but it also might be related to what that post is about. What are some of your recommendations specifically for therapists, what they should be posting about?
Yeah, there's kind of 3 different buckets of posts that I do recommend, and they typically are related to the ultimate goal of that post. So the first one, the ultimate goal would be to promote your offer or your service. So you can use storytelling, you can use educational content, really focus on those feelings and promote that, whatever your offer is. But you also want to have posts that encourage people to share your content, and posts that encourage people to engage with your content, so like or comment. So that's typically a really good cadence for a lot of the Startup Nation folks, because not only are we asking, but we're also giving to our community, and we're encouraging them to share it with their circle of influence as well.
What are some good things to encourage people to share? I mean, other than the call to action to share, what do people want to share?
It's all about that content that makes them feel seen. Honestly, one of my clients who's an OBGYN posted about postpartum underwear. She was like, I can't be the only one who wore this way longer than I should. And it's that kind of content where people send it to their girlfriends because they're like, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one. And so if you can really tune into the challenges and everyday life that your people are experiencing, they'll feel like you see them, you understand them, and they're more likely to share that type of content.
Very cool. And then is there a request to share, or it's just because it is that human experience that people are just naturally sharing?
You can ask to share, but I find the best content that people just naturally share is just that human experience type of content. It really helps you be seen and be heard. And then obviously with her specifically, she has a post about hormones. She has a post about, breastfeeding versus formula. And so she has those kind of more in-depth and educational posts that lead to her offers. But this is the post where people share it. They come into her world. Now they're experiencing the rest of her content.
Gotcha. So you shared with us a little bit about how to go ahead and automate. You shared with us some ideas on like what's the cadence to post and how do you make that personal touch while still staying somewhat automated? Because we know that therapists, we're a direct service. So our time is spent solely with our clients. There's no other, being on hold for 20 minutes while you're in a session, making an appointment. It's so dedicated to our clients. So it makes, our time management even more precious.
Yes. One of my other favorite automation hacks is to create messages for yourself. Both Facebook and Instagram do this, where you can either have it automatically reply or you can just save it as a message. Now, the key here is to still customize that message. So an example would be one of my clients is a dating coach and she calls her people mermaids. And so when someone asks a question, she's going to respond with like a mermaid emoji in the actual response. It's still automated, but it feels custom. It feels personalized. So it may take a little bit of work up front to kind of craft these messages and infuse your brand or your business's personality, but it'll save you a ton of time to be able to, if someone says, how do I book a call? It's like, hello, my beautiful mermaid. Here's the link for you.
Gotcha. So it's really like connecting with your brand and what your brand already utilizes. And that's what you're saying is the personal touch rather than, contact us or whatever.
Yes, exactly. And even if this isn't something that's automatic, even if you have an assistant or a virtual assistant, someone like that helping out with this, there's a lot of opportunity to customize using the specific words and language that you use with your clients as well.
Nice. I know that for us, we actually have an email template script on how to respond to things that our assistant, utilizes. And it's just easy because, there's numerous questions you get all the time. And she's done a really good job at creating them. One of the things that I'm going to ask you personally, and I've found this, is we do have a message on Facebook when someone contacts us to email us. And then it was literally last week and I was waiting to meet someone at Starbucks and I was like, oh, let me check the Facebook stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, these messages have been sitting in here for weeks now. And did they respond? Because Kate and I we're not in the email as much. So I don't even know if they had emailed us. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And it's weeks later, I'm like, this is not good. So how would you respond to that in regards to managing what people message you on social media to assuring that, they are getting the service that they need?
Yeah, that's a bit of a tough one because I think it's it's our human nature. So if as a human, I reach out, I say, I need help with this, and then I get an automatic response that says to email. A lot of people don't email at that point, but it's still on them to follow up. We get this all the time with people asking questions that are very clearly on the website or very clearly on the social media post. But if it has been weeks, you can just have a very human response. Hey, it's been a few weeks. We don't know if you've emailed or not. We just want to prompt you in case you still need help with this issue. How can we help you? And so I think some of that humanness can be okay in these certain situations. But with the kind of nature of social media, a lot of people expect it to be instant. So it does take a bit of training for our people to understand that it's not instant. And, as a practice owner, you can really use this as an educational opportunity as well.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And that's just naturally some stuff that we do anyways. But I find with social media, I'm like the opposite. I don't have to plan time so I can assure I get off. I have to plan time to remind myself to go on and engage, right? And then you're looking at your notifications and it's several of them are on the same post and you've seen them all. So just you're like, okay, well, I've done, all right, I got all the notifications. And then someone's like, oh, I tagged you in a post 3 days and you go, and you're like, where? And you're trying to find it. Where did, and it's so hard. I know with email, just it's in the inbox, it's there, it's in front of your face. You know what I mean? And it's okay, I can respond to that now, or I know it's there, I'll respond in a day or whatever. So I find those are some of my challenges. And then of course with Facebook, the people who aren't your friends, that hidden wherever their messages are, I forget about that. And it's months. And I'm like, oh my God.
I know. And, the thing about that too is I recommend a lot of people turn off the notifications. So you don't get distracted throughout the day and you have that set time to okay, this is when I'm going to respond, but you still may miss some things. And so part of this is kind of being okay with that because it's not you. that Facebook hiding message thing is Facebook. I wish they would not do that because I miss messages too. We all do. And so I think it's important as well to understand that that's also a human experience. It's fine. And it can become part of the habit as well. So in my little Asana task, it says check Facebook. I'm going to check both places just automatically because I don't have a notification anyways. So that can help build new skills if you kind of give yourself those parameters.
Gotcha. And what's something that we shouldn't ever automate and outsource instead?
I don't think any automatic outreach. So those automatic direct messages that's like, hey, you just followed me. Here's 10 things you can do next. I think while it is in with the best intentions, I think it can really give the wrong message and it can really send the wrong signal because your audience doesn't want to feel like an audience. They want to feel like an individual person. Mm-hmm. And so I do think some of those automatic kind of outreach messages, whether they follow you or not, can really send the wrong signal and can actually cause quite the opposite effect.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's funny because we don't get them as much anymore, but a lot of times we would get emails in our inbox from web designers, marketers, and it was like all about them. And I'm like, you probably would have gotten our business or at least a conversation by saying like, hey, we help therapists build, beautiful websites. What are you most struggling with when it comes to web design? And just like leave it at that. Like, don't give me all of your points and I don't care. You know what I mean? And I do see those automated messages like on LinkedIn or other places of, hey, I see you're in this business. Check this out. I don't know you. Why would I want to spend my time checking that out? No.
It's so bizarre. And I got one in the past couple of years that was from someone in like Wisconsin trying to sell me solar panels. And I don't even live in the same country. I was like, this has gone too far.
Oh, that's funny. That's very funny. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andrea. Anything specific that maybe we've left out in our discussion today that you want to make sure that we highlight?
I really want to highlight the fact that social media can be an amazing and powerful tool for a lot of businesses to grow. However, it's designed to be addictive. So we've got to give ourselves parameters. We've got to give ourselves space. Even as you mentioned, the opposite can happen. You can go days without looking at it, months without looking at it as well, which still isn't really a great strategy for using it to grow your business. So give yourself those parameters and space. And then if you really don't like it, make a plan to start outsourcing it. There are a lot of people out there who can support you, from virtual assistants, social media managers, and more. And to me, it's just like accounting or bookkeeping. That's the first thing I outsource. So I feel like even if something as personal as managing your books can be outsourced, I think social media can as well.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And what advice would you give? Because I know a lot of times, we often talk about being in brand and the therapist voice, and, how would a therapist like interview someone like your company to decide like how are they going to keep, what I know and the education that I give and my personality?
Yeah. So I do recommend setting your own foundations and rules for that. Typically having a brand voice guide and having the parameters outlined for that person, especially with therapy, there are a lot of things you cannot say on social media. And so you've got to have those outlined for whoever is going to be managing your account so that they don't misspeak on your behalf, because this is a representation of you in a very public way. And so you do have to take the time to set those boundaries and those parameters, and then have that person step in and kind of reflect that back. So typically if you've got like a website, make sure the website's updated, because usually they'll pull content from that. If you have any guidebooks that you give to your clients, any resources that you give to your clients, that could be very helpful. And it can also be as simple as sitting down for 30 minutes once a month and talking through some of the initial challenges and issues that your clients have, and then having that social media person reflect those back on social media.
Mm-hmm. Well, and of course, working with someone who's niched in the area always helps and is really important. So cool. Well, yeah. Andrea, what do you most want our audience to take away from your message today?
Social media can be fun. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be this thing that you feel like you want to delete Instagram from your phone and never look at it again. It can be a fun and very valuable tool for a lot of businesses to grow as long as it's used correctly. And so that's kind of the main thing that I would want folks to take away from today's conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I know that you have something for our audience. What is that?
Yes. So if you want to learn more about diving into building a social media strategy, I have a free course that guides you along the way. One of my favorite parts of the course is there is a meditation that helps you understand your relationship to social media, both personally and as a business owner. And it can be a very good reflective place to start as you're building out a strategy that works for you. So you can find that at onlinedrea.com/free.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll put that on our show notes page so you guys can access that. And we hope that you guys join us next week as we talk with April Kaiserian on her success story and where she is now. It's just our opportunity to check in with our past alumni and see what they're up to and how they've been successful out there in the world.
Yes, thank you, Andrea, for being here with us today. And Startup Nation, we hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. It's time for our superhero shout out for today's episode, and that comes from Jane B. Jane says, I absolutely love the Private Practice Startup Podcast. Thank you so much, Jane, for the love. We are sending it right back to you, and we're so glad this has been helpful along your journey. And Startup Nation, if there's a topic that we haven't talked about yet in our 250 plus podcast episodes, please let us know, because we really want to create content that is directly speaking to your needs along your practice building journey. So we also encourage you to subscribe, rate, and review the show, and we will look forward to seeing you on the next episode. In the meantime, stay inspired.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.